by bread alone. Yeah, this word got food in it. Stepping on the devil dome, you should see the bruise in it. Backing out the scripts, told a demon to stand down. Go against the Most High, we gon' see how it pan out. The Father gave me hope, fill me with the ghosts. Now they hate it when I glow. Joseph with the coat, looking for their fruit, but they ain't got no cantaloupe. The Messiah over Lio, you can't be a fan of both. Can't serve two masters. Bread of heaven with the living water, yeah, he's serving up a truth platter. We ain't idolizing no folly, now we setting up a new standard. When Christ touched down, make the whole earth shake like Bruce Banner. Yeah, bringing them troops to ya. End times getting spookier, warfare getting nuclear, mankind getting goofier. They intoxicated with a wine, damn, she done roofie them. I'm checking every word, spirit doctrine like a proofreader. I hate these Nicolatans, hate these great Renatos, man, I hate these flipping pagans. Try to play my father and I hate these imitations. Screaming out Hosanna, we escape that simulation. Better flee to me, vote these or else that lake is where you layin'. Great is he inside of me, casting out this net like I was by the Sea of Galilee. Harvest gon' be plenty, but the laborers are few. Matthew 17 and 20, there ain't nothing we can't do. I can't be no lukewarm, fringes with the blue on. Devil wanna deal, but I told him this ain't Groupon. Praise to the Almighty, you know we gon' sing a new song. Hail the King of King, the Ultra Low, no Jimmy Neutron. If you keep his laws and his commands, then we can fellowship. I don't get with Pharisees and I don't rock with Hellenists. I ain't praising man, cause only Father get my reverence. I'm swimming in the word, it got me feeling like a yellowfin. Yeah, big stepper, Mr. Demon Chin Checker, trying to hear that well done, cause I feel that displeasure. Father pouring out the wrath, and he got a big measure. If it ain't about the kingdom, then I don't give a six letter. You got faith in the Messiah, you got power. I was clean up in that blood just like a shower. Isaiah 5, you were the vine that came out sour, but now we stand and giving glory in this hour. Yeah, we breaking them curses, fleeing the ways of the serpent. Follow his word and pray for discernment, cause they want us laying in hearses. We gotta rise up, raise and resurface, choose life and stay in your purpose. The price was paid like a merchant, through Christ who came as a servant. See, the kingdom is ready to bag, but yet somehow they chasing a Birkin. After this you ain't getting a chance, while you living you can't better search him. Gotta call on his name like his urchin, never knowing that day is emerging. So repent at the weight of perversions, judgment coming, that thing is for certain. Let's go.
Shalawam family, it's your brother Yasharahla from the House of Bread, and I have to give all praises, all glory, and all honor to the Most High God, whose name is Yahawaah. Of course, I do so in the name of His only begotten Son, Hamashiach, Yahawashi, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. Make sure you make your way over to HIBofficialZion.com and get you a copy of the HIB, the Hebrew Israelite Bible. Shalawam, Kwam Yasharahla.
The Hebrew Israelite Bible is the first of its kind, restoring the names of persons, places, and things in the ancient Hebrew dialect, colloquially referred to amongst the Israelite community as the Lashawan Quadash. Most importantly, it preserves the Most High's name Yahawah in the Paleo-Hebrew script. The Hebrew Israelite Bible comes complete with all 80 books found in the 1611 King James Version Bible, including the Apocrypha.
All right, Shalawam family. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, all glory, and all honor unto the Most High God, whose name is Yahawaah. Of course, I do so in the name of His only begotten Son, Hamashiach Yahawashi, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. It's your brother Yasharahla, and we are getting ready to discuss the mark of the you know what, right? MOTB. Right, make sure you guys like, share the video. Right, make sure you like and share the video. All praise to the Most High. Hey, Shalawam says, listen, man. Every time I go live and I hit live and the intro track just starts playing, I'm like, dang, this song is so heat. Like, and this has been our intro track for quite some time, right? And I get questions all the time. What is the name of this track? The name of the track is called Matthew 4 and 4 Freestyle by Jake Juvel. He's a Benjamite brother from Toronto. Bro's cold with it, man. He's on all streaming platforms. So he's on Spotify, he's on Apple Music, he's on YouTube. But it's called Matthew 4:4 freestyle. So Matthew 4:4 freestyle. So every single video, people ask me what the name of the song is. All praise to the Most High. All praise to the Most High. So yeah, let's before we dive in, right, make sure you guys make your way over to HIVofficialzion.com. Link is in the description. All right. Let me go ahead and share my screen really quickly. And make sure you make your way over to HIVofficialzion.com. Link is in the description. And I'll get you a copy of the Hebrew Israelite Bible, right? Has the Most High's name restored in the ancient Paleo Hebrew, and the names of persons, places, and things transliterated in what we call the Lashwan Kodash. Now, it is the holiday season, right? So just so everyone understands, there's been some people who have made orders as of recent. Right now, because it's the holiday season, the publisher, their printing speeds are delayed, right? So the order can take up. It will be printed within 13 business days, and then the shipping speeds will vary. So keep that in mind. But again, you're going to get an amazing product through the spirit and power of Yahawashi. So again, make your way over to HIVofficialzion.com. Get you a copy of the Hebrew Israelite Bible. All right. Let me see what is going on here. There we go. No. There we go. Boom. Looks like all of my. Here we go. That's what I'm looking for. Yeah, it looks like all of my layouts got a little mixed up, but all praise to the Most High. Listen, if you know what's good for you, you will refuse the mark of the beast, right? When it is implemented, right? When it becomes mandatory that the mark of the beast be adopted by individuals here in Babylon, right? This is where we live, and just so everyone understands, the mark of the beast is going to be other places as well, right? But the beast, we're going to discuss who the beast is, what his mark is, and what are the consequences for receiving it, right? So we're going to dive into that in just a bit, right? Now, if you guys have not already, right? If you have not watched, give me 1 second. Let me go ahead and log in. Yeah, so if you haven't already, make sure you go ahead and check out this my latest live, right? So obviously you all know what's been going on in the community. There's been there's been this doctrine of so-called simultaneous salvation that's been presented to the nation, right? So if you go on my channel, right, any live, you're gonna have to go to live, right? So some videos are gonna be under live, some videos are gonna be under video, right? When you go to live, right, of course, I did the original peer review for Genesis's Gentile salvation doctrine. Did another response to their exegesis of Amos 9, demonstrated how the Hebrew does not reflect the English translation of the various multiple English translations, especially the KJV. Went into the Hebrew syntax, also went into various translations in the English that actually translated properly, right? Just a couple of days ago, did this extensive lesson on Cornelius, right? And I'm currently working on a presentation for Acts the 17th chapter, right? Now these are arguments and talking points that the brothers are using to forward this Gentile simultaneous salvation doctrine, right? And this Acts 17 breakdown is going to be just as extensive as this Cornelius breakdown, right? A lot of the things that we discussed in the Cornelius breakdown, a lot of the history, right, that we dove into is going to play a part in what's going on in Acts the 17th chapter. So it's going to be good, Lord willing. I'm hoping I should be doing that lesson on this upcoming Sunday. There is a book. So part of preparing for this lesson, right, the Cornelius lesson, I already had the main book in which I used to show the history, right? I showed you guys the actual physical book in my hand. I was reading from it right here. But all the other sources, I was able to find copies, PDF versions of them, right? Unfortunately, one of the sources that was going to be like the icing on the cake source was unable to find a PDF version of it. However, I was able to find a used version of the book for a relatively decent price, right? So that is actually scheduled to come in on the 31st of this month, so-called New Year's Eve. I'm hoping it comes earlier, hopefully by Saturday, because me and my family we're going to be traveling this upcoming week, and I won't be back until after like the second week in January. So I won't have my setup. I won't be in a place where I can go live and do these videos. So definitely want to be able to present this information to you guys, in a timely fashion. Additionally, that book is supposed to be delivered when we're gone, like 2 days after we're gone. So I'm just hoping it comes early so that I can get the lesson knocked out and give the presentation and show you guys exactly what's going on with Acts 17 chapters, specifically about the Epicureans and the Stoics, right, which are two different schools of philosophy, right, that were prevalent in Greece, right, or prevalent in the Greco-Roman world. Okay, now if you paid attention in the Cornelius breakdown, again demonstrated how part of Hellenism, right, and the Greeks spreading their beliefs and their values, what they would do is, of course, they would have gymnasium, right, where young men, they would, of course, train, fight, right. We know what gymnasium means. It means naked exercise. So you got a bunch of men, young boys, wrestling and fighting each other naked, crazy. And then a part of that was something known as the Ephebion, where they would literally be taught, again, this military training. They will also be taught philosophy, and they will be taught literary works, right? So think of it like this, right? Put yourself in first century Asia Minor, right? First century Greece, first century Syria, first century Phoenicia, first century Judea. When we see that our people, the Jews, gave into Hellenism, right? They set up gymnasium, right? There were various Greek cities in the land of Israel, even prior to the Greco, occupation and of course conquest. So just imagine if you are being raised, you are a young man, you're going to this academy, right? You're learning combat, you're learning all types of stuff, right? You're also learning literary studies, right? So that means you're reading the works of all these previous philosophers. So Plato, right? Socrates, right? Aristotle, right? Pythagoras. You're learning all of this, all right? Of course, there's other forms of philosophy, other schools of philosophy, hence the Epicureans and the Stoics. You're learning this stuff too, right? So you're learning philosophy, you're reading all of this literature, primarily by philosophers, right? Mathematics, all types of stuff, and you're being trained in the military. So there's a level of indoctrination that starts to happen, And if anyone's going to college, you know, sometimes you have to take classes like philosophy. I had to take a philosophy class in college, right? I had to take a sociology class in college. And I can attest to the fact that in sociology class, they try to push the idea that gender and sex are different, and that gender is a social construct, right? And they go into all of this stuff, right? And if you don't have strong values and strong morals when you're learning this stuff, right, you're going to be what? You're going to be influenced and indoctrinated by that. So now you're going to start eating, living, breathing that, right? And so this is what was going on. There's no new thing under the sun, right? So all that's going to play a huge role. Everything that was discussed during this lesson is going to play a huge role in the Acts 17 breakdown. So, Lord willing, that book will come in ASAP. I'm working on the presentation currently, so it should be done, Lord willing, within the next couple of days. So we'll see. Just make sure that you are subscribed. Make sure you hit the notification bell so that you get notified whenever I go live and whenever I drop a video. Okay. So the mark of the MOTB, right? What is the mark of the, right? So what I want to do, all right, let's actually just dive straight into the scriptures, right? So let's go to the book of Revelation, chapter 13. All right. So what we see here in Revelation, the 13th chapter, right? We see this beast from the sea, right? And then we see this beast from the earth, right? And what we're going to focus on is this beast. So starting at Revelation 13:11, it says, "And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon." Right? Much to unpack there, right? What does that mean? That this beast, right, had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. Now, what do horns represent prophetically? Right? What do horns represent prophetically? When we take a look at Luke chapter 1, starting at verse 68, we see that Zechariah, the father of John the Baptist, that he says that God has raised up a horn of salvation for us, right? Yashar, no, horns don't represent kingdoms. Beasts represent kingdoms, right? And we see this in Daniel, the 7th chapter, right? Daniel sees a vision of four beasts, right? And these four beasts would represent the major empires that would arise in the earth and that would have control and power over the Israelites. So the first beast represents the Babylonian Empire, right? The second beast represents the Medo-Persian Empire. The third beast represents the Greek Empire, and the fourth beast represents the Roman Empire. Okay. Now, when it comes to horns, right, we see that the fourth beast, it has horns, right? So it corresponds with this beast that we see here in Revelation, right? The brother Quadazath, he got it right, right? It represents power, right? It represents power. Think of it like this. When a ram, which is a male sheep, he has horns. Same thing with an ox. An ox has horns, right? That's where their strength, that's where their power comes from, right? So this particular beast will have two horns, right? It would have a lot of power, right? But it says horns like a lamb. Now, how does a lamb typically what is a lamb's demeanor? A lamb is typically what? Very docile, very meek, sweet, right? Lambs are very, a lamb is cute, right? We kept Passover last year, and we got our lamb of the first year, separated him on the 10th day, right? We went and picked him up, brought him to my home, right? And we just had him in the backyard, right? And I ain't gonna lie, the lamb was cute, right? Cute. The animals are cute. Baby animals are cute, right? So a lamb is very, very mild mannered. It's not an animal that's a predator, right? It's an animal that's very, very meek and docile, right? But it has two horns, right? It has these two horns, so it has power. And it says it spake as a dragon. Now, how does a nation speak? A nation, right? A kingdom, it speaks through its legislation, right? And when we look at the legislative body of this beast, we have a two-house legislative body, right? Who is this beast? This beast is none other than the good old US of A, right? Now, let's take a look real quick. I'm going to go to Daniel chapter 7 real quick. All right, so let's take a look. Okay. So, Daniel chapter 7, and this is all, Daniel's my favorite, one of my favorite prophets. So let's jump around a little bit, right? So let's see. Verse 7 says, after this I saw in the night vision, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and had 10 horns, right? So this beast right here is just says to have 10 horns, right? And it's diverse or different from the other beasts. Now, the other beasts, right? You have the Babylonian Empire, you have the Medo-Persian Empire, and you have the Greek Empire. They were all ruled by monarchies, right? By kings, right? This beast was diverse in that it had a form of democracy, right? You had the Roman Senate, right? Which they did adopt from previous Greek city-states, right? Prior to the Macedonian conquest under Alexander, right? And it says it has 10 horns, right? These 10 horns represent 10 kingdoms, essentially, right? 10 powers, right? And Daniel goes on to say in verse 8, I consider the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn. So now there's a total of 11 horns, right? There's a little horn that pops up of this beast. Now, notice how this beast, it just said it's dreadful and terrible. It doesn't even call it a dragon, right? It says, before whom there were 3 of the horns plucked up. So this horn plucked up 3 different horns, right? Now, let's take a look. Let's go to the book of Zechariah, because all of this plays into plays together, right? The prophets, they are singing different notes, but it all harmonizes, right? It's a beautiful choir, right? So where do I want to start? So Zechariah chapter 1, and I'll start verse 18, right, to get to the point. It says, then lifted I up my eyes and saw, and behold, 4 horns. And I said unto the angel that talked with me, what be these? And he answered me, these are the horns which scattered Judah, Israel, and Jerusalem, right? So these horns, right, they had a hand in the transatlantic slave trade. The major players in the transatlantic slave trade were the Spanish/Portuguese, you had the British, right? You had the French, and of course you had America, right? Now, when we go back here to Daniel chapter 7 and 8, it says that this little horn, it plucked up 3 of the other horns, right? Spain/Portugal will be one of those horns. You have France, and you have the UK, right? Britain. So America got its independence from the British, right? They fought the British in a war, right? Then they also had the War of 1812. After that, the British Empire starts to crumble, right? You have the Spanish-American War, right? America has control over Puerto Rico to this day because of the Spanish-American War, right? They used to have control over the Philippines, but the Philippines, they got their independence, right? They have control over Guam and other assets, right? So America is this other little horn, right? That stems out of this fourth beast. It stems out of this Roman Empire, right? And then of course you have the French. The French, right? They got belt put to ass by the tribe of Levi down in Haiti, right? Napoleon, you know, he's an idiot. He tried to invade Russia, right? Trying to take over all of Europe. And then we have the Louisiana Purchase. So it took a lot of power from these other three horns, right? As we see here in Daniel, the 7th chapter, in verse 8, right? And these are the same horns that scattered the children of Israel, right? Via the transatlantic slave trade, okay? So now, right, let's come back here, right, to Daniel chapter 7, right? I want to jump down to the interpretation, right? So it says, verse 17, it says, these great beasts, which are four kings, which shall rise out of the earth, right? But at the end, once they come out of power, the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever, right? Then I would know the truth of the fourth beast, which was diverse from all the others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron, and his nails of brass, which devoured, break in pieces, and stamped out the residue of the feet, into the 10 horns that were in his head, and then the other which came up, right? So now again, we have 11 horns, and before whom 3 fell, even of that horn that had eyes and a mouth that spake very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows, right? So this word stout, it means proud, right? They were more proud. So who's more proud than the Edomite from America? We literally have songs here called Proud to Be an American, right? So this is who this little horn is. So this little horn corresponds with this beast from the earth, right? Now, in Revelation, the 12th chapter, right, we see the woman, which is Israel, right? We see the red dragon, right? It says that Satan is, the word Satan simply means adversary, right? And this red dragon represents the Roman Empire, right? Of course, under the Roman Empire, we have Herod, who was literally set up by the Romans. He's an Edomite. He's set up by the Romans, right? He tries to do what? He tries to unalive sweet baby Jesus, right? Who the world calls Jesus Christ, Mashiach Yahawashi, right? And this particular beast, being the Roman Empire, of course, it scattered. It took down 4 of the stars, right? A third of the stars of heaven, which represent the tribes of Israel, right? So again, we have this Roman Empire, right? Then when we get to Revelation 13, we have the revised Roman Empire, right? Because when we even look at Daniel, the 7th chapter, it tells us that the wound of this particular beast would be wounded, right? Actually, let me go here. Right. So boom, we're actually verse 13, chapter 13 of Revelation. So it says, and I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. Right. So again, this is the revised Roman Empire, which were in all these different heads, right? Notice how there's no number of heads for Daniel 7. It's just a dreadful kingdom, right? And it has 10 horns, right? These 10 horns, right? We see the 10 horns here in Revelation 13, but now we see the mention of 7 heads. So it has 7 heads, 10 horns, right? And on his 10 horns, crowns, right? So again, this just represents the revised Roman Empire, right? Again, it was a dragon, right? It's not described as a dragon in Daniel 7, but this is the same beast that we see in Revelation 12. The Roman Empire falls, and of course, through the Renaissance, we have the rise to the Western European power structure, which is chiefly NATO and the EU, right? And out of that beast, right, that centralized white power, right, European power, we have that little horn come up amongst them, right? America literally was established by primarily British colonizers, right? They revolt against the mother country, right? That's that little horn that comes up. See, when you have a parent and you have a child, parents are larger than their children, right, in stature. So we're looking at one of the horns being being Britain, and then you have another horn, a little horn comes up from amongst them, right? Again, that horn comes out of Britain, right? And overall Western European culture, right? So this little horn comes up. It's more look, it's more stout than this fellow. It began to get more power. Of course, America became more powerful than Britain, right? Very, very simple, easy to understand. So when we get here, this is talking about more in depth about that little horn. So back here in Revelation 13 and 11, it says, and I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth. He had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. He exercises all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed, right? So again, the revised Roman Empire, which is Western Europe, right? They were wounded, right? The Roman Empire fell and it came back up, right? This is part of the healing. It says, and it exercised all the power of the first beast, right? So it has the same amount of power as the Roman Empire, right? The Roman Empire was one of the largest empires known to man. They had control all over the world, right? America has naval bases all over the world, right? Let's continue. It says, and he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. Now, of course, European countries were dropping bombs on each other left and right in World War I and World War II. But this beast, right, this other beast, right, which is specifically talking about America, they're the only country in the history of mankind to drop a nuclear bomb, right? They dropped two, right, on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and that ended World War II, okay? So this is what this is going into. They make fire come down from heaven in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles. That was a miracle, right? When you see the carnage of a nuclear bomb being dropped on not just on military, right, on civilians, okay? One can make an argument that what America did in World War II and dropping those bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, that was a war crime, right? Now I'm not sure if those rules of war were in effect at that time, but that's one can make an argument that that's a war crime, right? Dropping it on civilians. So it says that's how they deceived the whole world by means of those miracles, which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, right? So he's doing this in the sight of the beast, meaning all the rest of the European powers, they all saw that, right? And then Russia gets a nuclear program, right? The UK, France, they have nukes, right? The state of Israel, they claim they don't have nukes, but we know that they have nukes, right? So he did this all in the sight of the beast, right? Saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live. Now, what is the image of the beast, right? Let's go into the word for image. Now, what happens a lot of times amongst various brothers here in the community, right, is they conflate the image of the beast with the mark of the beast. The image of the beast is not the mark of the beast, right? So what is the word for image, right? We have the Greek word icon, right? Where we get the word icon. Let's take a look at that. Image, figure, a likeness, right? Likeness, literally statue, profile, representation, resemblance, image. So what is the image of this beast? It's white supremacy and everything that comes with it, right? So when brothers say that the mark of the beast, oh, it's spiritual. It's spiritual. It's false ideologies. No, right? Prophetically, ideologies or doctrine is likened unto wine, not a mark, not an image, right? But the image of the beast, it entails that, right? It entails white supremacy, right? America and Western Europe has hegemony in the earth through the false guise of white supremacy, which is truly bred out of white inferiority, right? But because everyone, they have all of this seeming power, right, through this false narrative of white supremacy, this is how they're able to rule, right? Now, it also says here, image, right? Worship his image, right? So it goes on to say that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed, right? So if you don't engage, right, if you're not within the system, right, if you don't operate within the system that's been created, which is a white supremacist system, right, you're not going to be able to live, right? So this is what this is going into. The image of the beast, right, is all the ideologies. Christianity would be part of that, right? But here's the thing. The mark of the beast has a very specific judgment or punishment for receiving it. If we are saying, right, and this is, I need brothers in the community to really think about this. If you say that the mark of the beast is spiritual, is false ideologies, is Christianity, or what have you, what you're saying is that you're going to die here in Babylon. And I'll explain in just a bit, right? So again, this is the image of the beast. Christianity, false ideologies, and whatnot, that goes into the image of the beast. It says, and he causes all both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond. Oh, I'm going to show you a article that actually brings this to life. Free and bond to receive a mark in their right hand or in their forehead. Now, a lot of times what people do is they get real simple, right? They say, oh, it says in your right hand. Well, when we go to Revelation 14, it says in your hand in general. It's not just saying specifically your right hand. So you can't be simple and say, oh, well, if you get it in your left hand, you didn't receive the mark. That's just silly, right? So let's take a look at the word for mark, okay? We have the Greek word charagma, right? Charagma.
Strong's G 5480. Charagma. Charagma.
Right? So let's take a look at this definition. Charagma, a stamp, an imprinted mark, right? It says from the same as G 5482, which is karax, a scratch or etching, i.e. stamp as a badge of servitude or sculpted figure, graven, mark. So like, again, example, in the Torah, we have this thing called an all, right? Let's say I have a Hebrew servant, right? My Hebrew servant, I give him a wife, right? He has children, right? If that is the case, according to the Torah, if he, after the year of his departure, because he's supposed to serve you for 7 years, he can go out free, right? He can go back to his family, to his own possessions, right? But the wife and the children that I gave him, they belong to me, right? Now, in the law, it says, if he says, you know what, I love my master, I love my children, I love my wife, I will serve him for the rest of my days, right? What will happen, you take him to the door of the gates, to the elders, right? And they will bore in all. That would be a sign that, hey, he is your servant forever, right? Of course, he would not be treated as a slave, as a bondman, right? But he would be your servant forever. So looking here at this definition, it says, right, a badge of servitude, right? When you take this mark, right, of this beast of America, right, you're bowing down, right? And you're giving them a lot of power over you, right? So the word is charagma, right? Going back to the etymology of it, it's the Greek word charax. What does charax mean? A pail or stake, right? It says to sharpen to a point akin to G1125 through the sense of scratching a stake, i.e. a palisade or a rampart, right? What is a palisade? Let's look it up. A fence of wooden stakes or iron railings fixed to the ground forming an enclosed defense, right? So literally, in order to put a fence, you have to dig those stakes into the ground, right? Similarly, so this mark is going into your hand, is going into your body, right? We have Neuralink, right? We have Palm Pay, right? Let's just take a look at this. Palm Pay. Palm Pay is a leading secured African Asian fintech platform and over 35 million users, right? Let's take a look. Palm Pay. Palm Pay at, what is it? Whole Foods. So when you go to Whole Foods, look, people can pay with their palms, right? Let's go back to Revelation chapter 13, right? It says, he causes all, both small and great, meaning people who have high stature, right? People who have a low stature, right? People who are high up, people that are low, rich, poor, free, meaning you're not in the prison industrial complex, or bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name, right? So how do you have, how are you going to have this mark? It's going to be inside of you, and there's going to come a point in time when you're not going to be able to engage in commerce, right? You got these silly niggas, right? These silly dominatrix niggas in black, right? The ISUPK. These niggas say that the mark of the beast is fucking embargo. Are you kidding me? Just plain stupidity, right? Embargo? Are you? These niggas got to be joking, right? No. Like, there's been embargoes various times in history. That's not the mark of the beast, right? The mark of the beast is something that you as an individual, not corporations bringing in goods from other places, right? There's an embargo on goods from Cuba, right? That's been for 60 plus years. There's been an embargo against Cuba, right? If someone's into cigars, Cuban cigars, right? They're known for being the best cigars in the world. Cuban cigars are illegal because there's an embargo on trade coming into the U.S. from Cuba, right? That's not the mark of the beast, right? It's not. This is something that's going to go into your body, right? And if you don't have it at a certain point in time, you're not going to be able to engage in commerce. Now imagine, right? You look here and there's no longer this. You can't put your card here, right? You can't tap to pay. You can't use Apple Pay, right? You're only going to be able to use your palm to pay, right? That's the mark of the beast, okay? Now, let's go to Revelation chapter 14. So, Revelation chapter 14 and 9, right? It says, and the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand. Notice how it doesn't say left or right hand. It can be either hand. Now, it's funny because it also says your forehead. Neuralink. Neuralink can refer to Neuralink, Elon Musk's company developing a brain-computer interface for thought control or various brain-focused supplements and therapy programs, like Neuralink for mood and focus, or Neuralink's for possessing disorders, all aiming to improve brain function. But the BCI company is the most prominent tech usage, right? So again, these people are literally trying to put chips in your brain, right? And this is all going to be spun as very, groundbreaking, right? It's going to be spun as, oh my God, this is so convenient. That's what Americans love convenience. Americans don't like inconvenience. Think of it like this, right? When you go to the grocery store, you can go to the poultry aisle and you can grab a pack of chicken wings, right? You can go back, grab, all right, a pack of steaks, right? Do you know how much work goes into getting chicken wings? Think of it like this, right? You buy a pack of chicken wings, right? We just bought a pack of chicken wings, right? And there were 14 total wings. That means that 7 chickens had to be caught. You ever try to catch a freaking chicken? They're hard to catch, right? That chicken then has to get its head cut off, right? You slaughter the chicken, you have to drain the blood, you have to pick the feathers, and you have to break it down into its individual pieces. The average human being does not know how to do that, especially here in America. Right now, in countries like in Africa and Asia, like people still listen, they catch their own food. You know what I mean? They don't have to process their own food. Like we live in a place where everything's processed, everything's convenient, right? They're gonna push this as super convenient. How convenient is it that, hey, you never have to use your wallet, right? What if you lose your phone, right? There's been tons of times where I've either left my wallet, couldn't find my wallet, right? And I'm out and about, and I'm like, damn, I gotta find a way. I need to go get gas. I gotta find a gas station that actually accepts Apple Pay, right? But guess what? What if you what if you lose your phone? Here's the convenience of it all. Oh yeah, just get this chip, you know what I mean, in either of your hands. Boop, boop. It's connected to everything. This is the mark of the beast, right? So the reason why the mark of the beast cannot be Christianity or anything spiritual, as many brothers like to say, right, is because of this. It says, if any man, if is a conditional clause, right? So if you don't do something, then you won't get this. If you do this, then this will happen, right? It's conditional. If any man worship the beast in his image and receive his mark, his charagma, right, in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of his holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascendeth up forever and ever, and they have no rest day nor night, who worship the beast of in his image, and who receiveth his mark, the mark of his name. Right? So anyone that receives the mark of the beast is cooked, is finito, is not going to be able to get delivered from Babylon. Right now, I know a lot of brothers still believe that the lake of fire is Babylon. I am not of that camp. The lake of fire will be near Jerusalem. Okay, it's going to be in the Levant. Okay. But here, anyone that receives the mark of the beast, whether you're an Israelite, whether you're a Edomite, a Moab, it don't matter what your race is. If you receive that mark, you're finished. All right, you have a intercontinental ballistic missile with your name on it. You're going to be destroyed, tormented with fire and brimstone. Right? In the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb, right? Now, when we look at Sodom and Gomorrah, right, and the overthrow of Babylon the Great, this mystery Babylon is likened unto Sodom and Gomorrah. What happened? fire and brimstone rained upon Sodom, Gomorrah, and the other cities, right, round about. Uninhabitable, right? It's going to be leveled. That's going to happen to anyone that receives the mark. So if the mark is Christianity, then 99% of the Hebrew Israelite community, right? Maybe 95, right, percent of the Hebrew Israelite community is cooked. If the mark of the beast is Christianity, I'm cooked. I might as well stop keeping the laws of God. I might as well stop doing lessons, right? You might as well just go ahead and just live up life and be as evil and wicked as you want to be if the mark of the beast is Christianity, as some brothers posit. Does not make sense. When we go back to Revelation chapter 13, all right, it says, it causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man may buy or sell save he that had the mark. So I would love to see how this will work, right? Let's say the mark of the beast is Christianity. There's going to come a point in time where there's going to be legislation where you will not be able to buy or sell if you're not a Christian, if you're not a member of Christianity. What's the qualifications? How is a merchant going to prevent you from purchasing in store if you're not a Christian, if Christianity is that mark? It doesn't make sense, guys, right? A lot of people do what? Online shopping. How are online merchants going to be, how are they going to verify whether or not you're a Christian or not, right? How are you going to be able to go to the HIBofficialzion.com and purchase a Hebrew Israelite Bible, right? Is there going to be a mechanism where it says, are you a Christian? Nope, right? You can't buy it. That doesn't make sense. So brothers got to stop saying that. It's literally the dumbest freaking One West breakdown ever imaginable. The mark of the beast is not Christianity. It's not ideology. It's not spiritual, right? This is a carnal beast. A carnal beast. God's mark and this beast mark are two completely different things. Completely different things. So to liken this mark of a carnal beast to something spiritual is asinine at best, right? When I was in the Christian church, 14, 15 years old, I knew that the mark of the beast was the RFID microchip. I knew that back then. How is it that brothers who allegedly study, right, who keep the commandments, who study deep, dark mysteries and prophecies and all these breakdowns, how is it that brothers can still in 2025 say that the mark of the beast is Christianity? That doesn't make sense. It doesn't make a lick of sense, right? So now, watch this. I found this article. Oh, no, that's not the one I want to look at. Where is it? Dang it. I'll get into this one in just a second, right? I found this article earlier today, and watch this. Copy. So again, going back to Revelation chapter 13, right? It says free and bond, right? And another thing, the jab is not, the jump shot is not the mark of the beast, right? So it says how transdermal microchips could revolutionize prison security. Invisible tracking and real-time alerts could prevent escapes and save lives inside correctional facilities. This is from July of this year. Wow. It says this article is based on research conducted as part of the CA Post Command College. It is a future study of a particular emerging issue of relevance to law enforcement. Its purpose is not to predict the future, rather to project a variety of possible scenarios useful for planning and action and anticipation in emerging landscape facing policing organizations, right? So let's jump down, right? Sergeant Thomas checked his watch. It was 21:07 hours on March 1st, 2025. Just 53 minutes left in a shift, marking nearly 11 years inside the same correctional facility. He moved along familiar hallways, confirming door security, assisting newer officers with their counts, and scanning cell windows, following a routine embedded over time. Each step was predictable. Verify presence, look for chest movement, confirm authenticity. Repetition had trained his eyes to detect anything out of place. Most nights, the process was uneventful. But not this one. The radio cracked, bad count, emergency count, all units, recount all units. An hour later, alarms confirmed an inmate serving a life sentence for a double homicide had escaped. The facility entered immediate lockdown. Search efforts were exhausted. The escapee was located 4 days later following a multi-agency manhunt costing nearly $2 million. Right? So again, what now? Ooh, this is cold, right? Elon Musk, the guy who's behind Neuralink, right? He was named the head of Doge, right? The Department of Government, what is it? Doge, right? The purpose of Doge was Department of Government Efficiency, right? Imagine how much more efficient it would be, right, in prisons if all of the prisoners had chips in their hands, right, in their bodies, right? And you had a mechanism for counting them and making sure that everyone is where they need to be. And if they have a chip, guess what? You can locate where they are, right? Instead of utilizing all these agencies, these law enforcement agencies, costing nearly $2 million, that's more efficient of government funds. Would it not be? Let's continue. It says, in the aftermath, internal reviews followed, trust in the institution eroded, and staff accountability actions ensued. What if this incident had been prevented? What if the moment the inmate breached his cell, a silent alarm alert had been issued, delivering real-time location data and enabling swift intervention? What if technology had addressed the gaps left by human error and operational fatigue? By 2035, correctional facilities have changed. Inmates now wear subdermal microchips, small embedded devices that continuously transmit location and health data in real time. There you have it, guys. This is in the works, right? This is something that these officials, the powers that be, are looking to do. The powers that be, they want control over everything. Now, this is from GatesNotes.com, right? This was written by Bill Gates just last October, right? I'm not even going to go into the article, right, and what he's saying, but I want to show this video. Right, and real quick before we dive into it, right, put a 1 in the chat if you heard about what's going on in the UK with these digital IDs. Put a 1 in the chat if you heard about what's going on in the UK with the digital IDs. Right, and people are upset about it. It says an invasion of privacy, right? Now, Satan himself, Bill Gates, the guy who literally wants to depopulate this earth, right? He said this stuff in TED Talks. This is gonna be at a TED Talk talking about, yeah, you know, when the next pandemic happens and when blah 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 blah, you know, population control. And nigga is putting all types of crap in the food. He actually owns more farmland than anyone in America. And they're just jacking our food up, right? Our food supply. They're spraying this stuff called Apparel, this really toxic coating that's supposed to keep food fresh, all types of nonsense, right?
Here in India, they're a leader in digital public infrastructure. Digital public infrastructure connects people, data, and money in the same way that roads and railways connect people with goods. Using secure digital IDs, mobile payments, and data exchange, the software enables countries to deliver economic opportunities and services to all citizens. It allows people to open bank accounts and receive wages faster and more easily. It improves access to healthcare. It can help smallholder farmers grow more food and increase their incomes.
How? I want to know how.
India created a digital identity system. You get registered, only you can access your bank account, or if you make a request to the government, then it's verified that it's coming from you. So for all their social programs, for communication with the government, this identity makes it very, very simple. Every government payment program now in India has been digitized. They've saved a lot. And you also end up with women having their own bank account, and so they can make sure the money is being spent on the family, and that's been proven to be very beneficial. Digital public infrastructure systems create a more vibrant, inclusive economy where all people can thrive, including women. I look forward to seeing how India will be working together with many other countries to pioneer these incredible software technologies, make sure everyone has the opportunity to prosper.
So doesn't that seem so altruistic and so philanthropic? And oh my God, it seems amazing, right? Bill Gates is just an amazing philanthropist, right? He's really concerned with women and lifting up impoverished communities. He truly does, but yet he sits on billions and billions of dollars, and does everything in his power to hold on to his wealth. Like, come on, right? But this guy who is pure evil wants this to be the reality all over this world, and it's a part of this concerted effort for one government, right? You have the World Economic Forum, right? These are the people who are literally these think tanks that come together to cause sovereign countries to get down with vaccine mandates, all types of stuff. Imagine if you got all these countries, right? And your goal is a new world order, right? This new world order where all these countries, these sovereign countries, they are bound by these certain rules and parameters, right? They all have these digital payment platforms, right? They all have CBDCs, right? And all of the citizens, they all have microchips in their bodies, and that's how they're able to access their medical history. They're able to access their funds, all types of stuff, right? They all have to have a digital ID because you have to keep a track of everybody. And people who, even if they're not in the knowledge of the Bible, or if they're not spiritual in any aspect, they understand that this is a complete invasion of privacy. And this is what Esau does. Esau thinks that he's God, right? Esau's always trying to play God, right? Esau's over here cloning animals and trying to revive the dire wolf and do all types of stuff, right? This is what Esau does, right? So this is underway, right? These digital IDs. This is all connected. Digital IDs, right? Security, convenience, right? All of that is super important, right? And is going to be going to be the reality of the vast majority of people, right? Many people are going to line up, right, to get this mark. Now, just think about it like this, right? In America, right? In America, you have, right now there's a situation with SNAP benefits during the government shutdown, right? They do all this stuff as trial runs. You saw how people were talking about, oh, they're going to riot, they're going to XYZ if the SNAP benefits don't kick in, blah, 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 blah. They don't. They want people to have that type of sentiment for the government, right? They rule out of chaos. Now think of it like this. Imagine once this mark is implemented, right? You won't be able to buy or sell unless you have the mark. Imagine all the Black and Latino brothers and sisters who are on SNAP, right? Who are, because of the way that the system is designed, they're just down bad, right? Section 8, things of that nature. And of course, I understand that Europeans, Caucasians are the #1 recipients of SNAP and Section 8 benefits, right? But just think about it. Even if you are, regardless of your race, right? But, of course, I'm only concerned with my people. Imagine they say, in order to get your SNAP benefits, in order to have your Section 8, you have to get this microchip inside your body. Do you know how many people are going to just fold? Think about what happened during the pandemic. If you don't get this, if you don't get the jump shot, right, you're going to lose your job. If you don't get XYZ, you're not going to be able to go to school. Think about how many people are going to just fall hook, line, and sinker, right, and bend and fold and do what? Worship the beast, right? Because I brought this out several times, right? And of course, during the peer review that I did for the Gentile salvation doctrine, right? The scriptures say that the Most High is going to bless them that bless us, right? So to bless those that bless thee and curse those that curse thee, right? When we look at the word for bless, the Hebrew word barak, right? It means to bow or bend the knee. Even the word knee in Hebrew is barak, right? So to bless means to bend the knee. When you bend the knee to Esau and you just bow down and you do what the hell he told you to do, right? You go and you get that mark placed inside of your body. You have now worshiped him, right? When you bow, when you bend the knee, you're doing something called prostration, right? I'll give you an example, right? We have the Greek word proskuneo, right? Revelation chapter 3 and verse 9. Watch this. Revelation 3:9 says, behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them come to worship before thy feet and to know that I have loved thee, right? Let's look at this word for worship. Proskuneo, right? It means meaning to kiss like a dog licking his master's hand, to fawn or crouch, i.e. literally or figuratively prostrate oneself in homage, do reverence, to adore, worship. That's what this word means, right? So when they say, listen, if you don't get this mark, right, if you don't get this chip, right, you're not getting your SNAP benefits. You're not getting your Section 8, right? You're not getting your 401k. You're not getting your what is it? Your Social Security. Imagine how many old people, right, are going to just go and get that thing in their body because they don't have access to their Social Security anymore. Think about that. Think about how many people, especially old people, just ran to damn CVS to get the jump shot, to get the jab. Think about it. It's going to be insane, right? So again, the mark of the beast is not Christianity, ideology, none of that, right? The mark of the beast is the RFID microchip, right? All of this talk of biohacking, right? All this talk of digital IDs, right? All this talk of global security, right? Vaccine mandates, pandemics, right? All of that is going, all works together, right? For this agenda in this new world order. You know how the scripture say all things work together for the good of them that love God, right? All of this that goes on, all of this stuff that's going on right now, all works together for the evil of Esau's agenda, of the beast's agenda, to have control over the masses. Okay. So check this out, right? So some states allow you to have your ID on your phone, right? I live in Pennsylvania, right? We're not able to have our ID on our phone, right? We just had where if you want to travel, right, on even domestic flights, you have to have a real ID, right? So they again, it's all incremental. They're all just laying little breadcrumbs, right? Let's see what we can do, right? Let's do this. Let's see what they can do, right? I remember it was probably about 3-4 years ago. I was coming from Atlanta, right? It was either no, it wasn't Passover. It was War Angel Weekend, right? We have War Angel Weekend every July, when I was a member of Sakari, right? And me and Akin, we were waiting in the line for TSA, and this is before I had TSA pre-check, right? Shout out to my wife, right? She came in and upgraded her brother's life, right? She's a former world traveler, right? She said, listen, you gotta get a TSA pre-check, all right? Hooked the brother up. Listen, she got me set up. Listen, go get your TSA pre-check. So now I gotta wait in some of these long lines, right? But even that, right? Even TSA pre-check is not even that beneficial, depending on what airport you're in, right? And especially Atlanta, right? That airport is insane. So you go around the airport, you see the clear thing where it scans your eyes. It's all biometric stuff, right? It's all incremental. So I'm waiting in line, right? And we just going through the little I don't even know what they call those things. Going through the line, right? And you're just going around in a circle, up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down, right? To get to TSA to check your to scan your bag and all that good stuff. And I was like, damn, yo, Esau really got us going through this airport like a bunch of sheep being herded into a location. That's literally what's going on. And that social engineering and that programming of the sheeple is something that's been going on for a long time. So what happened, right? You had 9/11, right? After 9/11, you couldn't bring a damn water bottle, right, over a certain. You can't bring a bottle of shampoo in your damn bag because always threats of terrorists using water bottles to blow stuff up, all types of nonsense, right? You had the Patriot Act, right? Allowing the government to just invade our privacy, right? They cause all this turmoil. They have all these false flags and things of that nature to get people afraid, right? So they can give them a solution to a problem that they created. This is what goes on in America, right? And I was just sitting there like, yo, they really got us herded in this piece, right? We're just going like a bunch of sheep to try to get on a plane and to go home, right? Just imagine when this stuff, all these things that we're just talking about, right? Digital IDs, right? You got the concern of prison breaks, right? You had what was those brothers down in like Louisiana or something that broke out of prison, like 9 of them niggas, right? And it took weeks and days for them to get caught, right? The last brother just got caught in Atlanta like not too long ago. But if niggas had microchips in their bodies, right? Oh, they'll know exactly where they are. Right? They would know exactly where they are, and they would be able to find them immediately. Stop prison breaks, right? Again, look at the convenience of quadriplegics, right? People who have these neuro diseases and things of that nature, right? Putting a microchip in their brain, as the Bible says, in their forehead. Now they're going to be able to do things that they were never able to do, right? They have a better quality of life. See how this is just packaged as this beautiful, amazing, just advancing technology. Just think about it, right? And here's the thing: when we look at Revelation 13, it says it causeth, right? This word for causeth does not imply force per se, right? Causeth, to make, prolong, obviously, to make or do, right? Abide, agree, appoint, band together, right? Commit, content, without delay, execute, exercise, fulfill, gain, give, have, hold, right? This word doesn't necessarily mean they're going to force you to do it. People are going to be obliged to do so, right? Now, the prisoners, right, they're definitely, listen, imagine being in prison and now they push this through, and now you got to get a microchip in your body. That's a bad situation. Like, that's a very bad situation. Again, you got all the convenience, right? You lost your phone, right? You don't have to worry. You don't have to carry a wallet anymore. Think about it, right? Let's say you got to take your kid to what's the face, to the doctor, right? All you got to do, right? Your baby got a little chip, right? You got your chip, right? Here's my insurance. Boop, boop. Here's my baby's medical records, right? You don't have to carry a wallet, right? And now we also see with what, right? I've been watching, I'm into tech, of course, right? And there's been talks of these things becoming obsolete, right? They're getting into wearables, right? You got the glass, the meta glasses, right? Other types of wearables. You got rings, right? And you can literally have your glasses. You can see, right? You can text, boom. You can get directions as you're walking. It's all convenient. Then they're trying to push these 15-minute cities, right? In places like Tampa and LA, right? It's all about Uber convenience. Think about how convenient Uber was when it first came to market, right? That's what it's all about, right? All this stuff together, right, shows us that this mark is coming. Now, I want to go to Revelation 3. Actually, Revelation 3. Watch this. It's the Church of Philadelphia. Right, boom. So, Yahawashi, of course, had John the Revelator write letters to different churches in Asia Minor, right? So he writes to the church, the angel of the Church of Philadelphia, right? These things say, he that is holy, he that is true, he that hath the key of David, he that openeth and no man shutteth, and shutteth and no man openeth. I know thy works. Behold, I set before thee an open door, and no man can shut it up. For thou hast a little strength, and hast kept my word, and hast not denied my name. Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them to come and worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee. Because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth. Right? Goes on to say, behold, I come quickly. Hold that fast which thou hast, that no man take thy crown. Him that overcometh will I make a pillar in the temple of my God. He shall go no more out. And I will write upon him the name of my God, and the name of the city of my God, which is New Jerusalem, which cometh down out of heaven from my God, and I'll write upon him my new name. Right? So, brothers and sisters, y'all should pray that you are of the Church of Philadelphia. I sure pray that I'm of this church, right? And the reason why is because he says that he is going, because you did not deny his name, because you kept his faith, his patience, right? Because you kept the commandments, right? And the faith in him, right? He have not denied his name. It says that he will also keep thee from the hour of temptation. What is the hour of temptation? The hour of temptation is when this is mandated, right? When the mark of the beast is implemented, right? Where you have to get it, right? And if you don't get it, you won't be able to engage in commerce. You won't be able to buy or sell. Imagine not being able to buy food for your family, for your children. So Light of the Nation is not all people from One West, right? It's very specific camps and congregations that believe that the mark of the beast is somehow Christianity or spiritual. I don't know why. Listen, you know how what's his name? Cat Williams said, I don't know why liars lie. I don't know why niggas believe the things that they believe. I don't know why. I don't. I don't get it. Right? I can't wrap my head around how Christianity could be the mark of the beast somehow. But I'm not them. So let's get into this article real quick. So it says U.S. needs an agency to call balls and strikes on digital IDs, lawmakers said. So Representative Bill Foster, Democrat from Illinois, said Congress needs to create a federal body capable of auditing identity verification technologies to lay the groundwork for a broad embrace of digital IDs. So they understand that digital IDs are coming, right? There's many states that allow you to have your digital ID on your smartphone, your device, right? And again, this is all laying the groundwork for not even needing that. It's going to be inside your hand. They're going to be able to know who you are, right? Imagine police have scanners, right? They pull you over, right? They can just boop, boop. Oh, yeah. Hey, sir, yeah, I pulled you over for speeding. I see your license here is suspended. I need you to step out of the car. Like, look at the world that's getting ready to come here. Imagine that. So, but of course, there's security concerns, right? There's security concerns about this. So it says one of the leading voices in Congress for the adoption of digital identification said a federal agency is needed to verify security of the software and hardware underpinning mobile phones and other authentic technologies. So if it's needed for that, it's definitely going to be needed for when that microchip is mandated, right? Now, actually, I want to take a look here. How many states allow digital IDs? Approximately 15 to 21 U.S. states and territories currently allow or support digital IDs, mobile driver's licenses or MDLs, with adoption rapidly increasing for use and TSA checkpoints, law enforcement stops, and age verification. Key states include Arizona, California, Colorado, Georgia, Louisiana, Maryland, and New York. Let's see. Okay, so we got look at all these. Illinois, Apple Wallet. Look at all these states. Now, some of them have their own app because they want to have control over it, right? But this guy's pushing for national, right? Where is okay? Boom! Right here we go. So it says, speaking on Wednesday at Identity Week America, Republican Bill Foster, Democrat from Illinois, voiced his continued support for the U.S. government to take more of a role in the development of the use of secure digital IDs, including mobile driver's licenses that can be used to help prevent bad actors from committing identity theft or fraud. How can someone commit identity theft or fraud, right? Financial fraud if you have a chip in your body. Look, just pay attention, right? It says Foster introduced legislation, the Improving Digital Identity Act last year, that will call for the government to look into the use of consent-based digital identity solutions to enable Americans to prove who they are online. He has introduced versions of the bill in each Congress since 2020 and voiced his desire to reintroduce it during the current 119th Congress. In an interview with NextGov/FCW last year, the congressman noted that the growing use of deep fakes and other artificial intelligence generated content to manipulate or conceal users' true identity means that the next best thing you can do is provide people with at least the ability to prove they are who they say they are and not a deep fake. Now, that's quite interesting, right? And I haven't read this yet, right? This is my first time reading it, but I found the article. I said, this plays into today's topic, right? I saw videos recently where AI is using content creators image and likeness and saying things and pushing messages that they've never said before. That's problematic. AI it's a useful tool. Like, for instance, when I look at a lot of my thumbnails, right? This thumbnail, I used AI, right? I used AI to generate this, right? The text, I did the editing of the text, right? I got this image of the hand with the microchip. I used Gemini, right? With the new Nano Banana, right? I used that. I brought it into Photoshop. Photoshop has AI attached to it. I was able to select the background and generate a background, right? So AI can be used for good, right? This right here, this image, this right here, all AI. I use AI to generate these two different images, right? Of course, I brought it into Photoshop, right? Put in the text, doing our signet, bing, bang, boom, AI, right? AI, right? I just uploaded a picture of myself. I said, hey, make this person holding various different Qurans. So AI is a useful tool, right? However, you can easily use AI for evil, right? Deep fakes. It says, where we at? While his previous proposals have garnered bipartisan support, Foster mentioned that he is currently working with Republican Mike Kelly, Republican of Pennsylvania, on the digital ID push. He said additional security steps will be needed on the federal level to ensure the security of the technologies used to verify people's identity. There's a danger there if you deploy, say, a mobile driver's licenses to millions of people, and then someone publishes a software kit to hack into the phone and get and extract the security keys that will allow you to impersonate the person online. And that will be a disaster for the whole effort, Foster said. We have to, so it is a missing piece of our effort federally. We need somewhere an agency that calls balls and strikes on trusted electronics, so electronics and software both. Although the National Institute of Standards and Technology has released guidance, frameworks, and best practices to help organizations enhance their cybersecurity and overall security postures, the agency's recommendations remain voluntary, right? They're still voluntary, right? So Apple doesn't have to listen to them, right? Google doesn't have to listen to them, right? Let's go back here. Google Wallet, Claire ID doesn't have to listen to them. Whatever developer of this stupid New York MID app right? They don't have to listen to them, right? But what this congressman is saying is, hey, we need the federal government to step in and say, yeah, no, you have to do this XYZ, because if just think of it like this. Imagine your ID being digital and there being a digital hack. You know how many data leaks and data breaches there have been? Do you know how many class action lawsuits against various companies happen because of data breaches, right? You've compromised my identity, right? My information can be on the dark web, right? People can impersonate me now with AI becoming more insane, right? They're creating whole ads, right? I saw an Oakley ad, and I forget the other company. An entire Oakley ad that was created with AI, using AI prompts, entire video, and it's you more than likely would not be able to tell that is AI, right? It's AI is getting better, right? So it says they have defined the standards, but they do not enforce that. Forster said about NIST, adding that that's maybe a good division of effort, but we need someone to enforce it. Forster laid out a hypothetical scenario where a flaw is detected in a future Apple iPhone and said this type of body would be able to tell the tech giant, you cannot sell that as something that you can use to present digital driver's licenses. Foster acknowledged that the effort would become very political very fast, but said it is really important because you cannot deploy digital driver's licenses on cell phones that turn out to not be trustworthy. And again, I get that. It makes sense, right? But again, this is all the groundwork, the framework for ushering in the mark of the you know what, right? Any questions? Yeah, you bugging out. Lost $700 messing around with AI. Yeah, I ain't letting AI trade for me. Any questions? There's no questions, family. Make sure you guys like and share the video, right? If you're new to the channel, make sure that you subscribe to the channel, right? Also, make sure that you subscribe to the House of Bread channel, right? Just type in House of Bread Camp, all one word. Can you repent from the chip? No, you cannot, right? Let's go to Revelation chapter 14. Revelation 14:9. And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or his hand, the same, meaning anyone that gets the mark of the beast, will drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascendeth up forever and ever, and they have no rest day nor night, who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name. So no, that's why. Oh, Salaki, I didn't even have it on the screen, right? So no, looking at Revelation 14 verses 9 through 11, there's no repentance of the mark of the beast. Now, there's also the 7 vials, right? We see the 7 vials, I believe, was that Revelation chapter 16, right? The 7 vials represent the seven last plagues. Right? Revelation 16 and 1, it says, and I heard a voice out of the temple saying to the 7 angels, go your ways and pour out the vials of the wrath of God upon the earth. Again, they shall drink of the wrath of God's indignation that's poured out without measure, right? Just poured up. Shots, just straight shots, right? It goes on to say, and the first went and poured out his vial upon the earth, and there fell a noisome and grievous sore upon the men which had the mark of the beast, and upon them which worship his image, right? So if you receive the mark, you're going to receive this noisome and gruesome sore upon you, right? Then we go on and see the second angel poured out his vial upon the sea, and that it should become blood of a dead man, and every living soul died in the sea. So imagine you're on a ship, right? You got your mark of the beast, you're on a cruise ship, woo, having a grand old time, right? Partying, BSing, right? Doing all types of nonsense, doing all types of drinking, having a good grand old time, right? You're going to die, right? The third angel poured out his vial upon the rivers and on the fountains of water, and they became blood. Your drinking water now becomes blood. These are very similar to some of the plagues that happened to Egypt, and this place is spiritually Sodom and Egypt, right? So, and there's more vials, right? So there's no repentance for receiving the mark of the beast, right? Listen, man. This is why it's important for brothers to know how to hunt, know how to fish, know how to be able to provide food for you and your family during a time of trouble, right? During Jacob's trouble, right? You gotta be able to do it. Great precept. Revelation 2:10, be thou faithful unto death, and I will give you a crown of life, right? Yahawashi says, he that will lose his life shall gain it, and he that will gain his life shall lose it. You trying to gain your life, right? You're unable to engage in commerce, right? You're unable to get a job and get a paycheck because you don't have this chip in your hand. And you say, you know what, man, my baby is hungry. Oh, my baby's sick. I need to buy medicine, right? You go and you get that chip. You've now lost your life. Your life, you're going to die a grievous death, right? Fire and brimstone. That fire and brimstone, is that those ICBMs? Yes. Now, the thing is, the ICBMs and the destruction and the burning of Babylon is not the equivalent of the lake of fire. The lake of fire is not here. However, right, Yahawashi talks about two resurrections: a resurrection unto life, of life unto them that have done good, right? You've done good by what? Being faithful unto death, right? Yahawashi is going to give you a crown of life, right? Another great precept. Thou therefore endure hardness as a good soldier of Hamashiach Yahawashi, right? You have to keep the patience, right, in the faith of Yahawashi, right? You have to keep the commandments, right? And the command is, don't get that mark. If you get it, you're going to eat of the wrath of the Most High God. And then ultimately, after going through all of this BS, getting a gruesome and noisome sore, right? If you're in the sea, dead, right? Drinking water, right? You may die a grievous way, right? But guess what? Then there's the resurrection of unto life for them that have done good, and then you have the resurrection unto damnation to them that have done evil. It is evil for you to bow down to the white man, right? Bow down to this system, bow down to this beast. You're supposed to bow to the Most High God, right? Keep his will, keep his commandments, right? If you will lose your life for that, you're going to gain it. You're going to be resurrected unto life. If you will gain your life, right, you're going to lose your life via thermonuclear destruction. And before that, you're going to go through a whole bunch of hell. And then there's the resurrection unto life, unto damnation, where now, if you're an Israelite, you're going to be resurrected here to get thrown in the lake of fire, which is going to be in the Middle East, right, in the Levant. So it's a pretty, like, you really got yourself in a pretty precarious, sticky situation, right? So be faithful, right? Stay girded. Keep your eyes on the prize. The prize is the kingdom. The prize is deliverance. We know in order to get to the kingdom, get deliverance, we have to walk on that straight and narrow path, right? See, wide is the gate and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many there be that find it. But straight is the gate and narrow is the way that leadeth to life, and few there be that find it, right? Second Ezra, I think it's the 7th chapter, it talks about a narrow path, and on one hand you have fire, on the other hand you have the water, right? Representing those two depths, right? Those two massive depths where the Lord destroyed the earth with the flood, and then of course the Most High God is going to destroy Babylon, destroy America with thermonuclear fire, right? You gotta walk that straight and narrow. Funny enough, talking about talking about the flood, right? There's some so-called prophet, a false prophet in Ghana by the name of Igbo. What's the nigga name? Igbo Noah. Nigga walking around in a damn sackcloth, right? Hair all disheveled, right? Niggas getting all these donations. Niggas building arcs, saying that tomorrow, so-called Christmas, December 25th, that God's going to flood the earth. I said, oh my God, you gotta be kidding me. I'm like, did this nigga not read the Bible where it says that God's not going to flood the earth again? And that's why we have a rainbow. The rainbow was the sign of the covenant that God is not going to flood the earth, destroy all flesh with a flood again. Absolute madness, right? But these are the last days, right? Yahawashi said, the many shall come in my name, right? There should be false prophets, right? There'll be, famines and earthquakes in diverse places. Nation shall rise up against nation, kingdom against kingdom, right? Wars and rumors of war, right? America just did attacks in Syria, right? If you pay attention to military chatter, right? They're saying that China is going to invade Taiwan any minute now, right? In no time, right? You got the situation with Venezuela, right? You got the U.S. seizing Chinese-owned oil tankers, right? All this, like World War III, is knocking at the door, right? Knocking at the door. Death and destruction is coming to this place, right? And the way that you hide yourself from the tempest, from the storm, is by keeping the commandments, keeping the faith in Hamashiach Yahawashi, because the scripture tells us that that the angels of the Lord encampeth round about them that fear him. If you don't keep the commandments, right? If you in this thing halfway, pussyfooting, lukewarm, Most High God Yahawashi is going to spew you out, right? And that's just that, right? So pray that you are of that church of Philadelphia where Yahawashi is going to open that door that no man can shut, right? Do the things that are required for that, right? Stand stiffly for his name, right? Keep the faith of his patience, right? Keep the commandments, right? So that you can have that open door open unto you, and you can receive, and you can be preserved from the hour of temptation. I know that's what I'm praying for, right? Any other questions? Any other questions? How do we know that the lake of fire is not here but in the Middle East? Because let's look at it. I'll give you one example, right? What is it? Revelation 11. Strong. So Revelation chapter 11 and verse 11 says, after 3 days and a half, the Spirit of God, a spirit of life from God entered into them, and they stood upon their feet, and great fear fell upon them which saw them. And they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, come up hither. Come up where? And they ascended up to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them. right? So the same hour there was a great earthquake, and the 10th part of the city fell, and the earthquake were slain of men 7,000, and the remnant were affrighted and gave glory to God. We were taught that the great earthquake, right, from the elders, that the great earthquake happens with the ICBMs, right? When those hit, well, that wouldn't make sense because there's people that die in that earthquake. There's people being called up and told to come up hither, right? And then the remnant, they're afraid. And then it says the second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. So the third woe is World War III. And the culmination of World War III, not necessarily the culmination, but for America, is it being destroyed via thermonuclear fire. Doesn't add up, doesn't make sense, right? So that's why. Is the House of Bread on Rumble? No, we are not on Rumble. Right? I personally have a Rumble channel. I don't use it. The Rumble channel I have has the evidence against the peg bender, because I'm not able to have it here on YouTube. It continues to get reported, all types of nonsense like that, right? So no. Any other questions? All right. Well, with that, I want to give all praises, all glory, and all honor unto the Most High God, whose name is Yahawah. Of course, I do so in the name of His only begotten Son, Yahawashi, who the world inwardly calls Jesus Christ. It's your brother, Ariella, from the House of Bread. Shalawam and Matawathya.